Hello, my name is Brian Tadros with the Law Office of Brian D. Tadros. We wanted to provide a little bit of information about what exactly a workers' compensation settlement is and what it would look like for an injured worker. Settlement is voluntary, and what I mean by that is if one side or the other does not want to settle for a agreed upon amount, the case just does not settle. So for instance, I tell people, if you're the most reasonable person in the world and all you want is $100 to settle your workers' compensation claim, if I go to the insurance company or their attorney and say, my client's willing to settle their case, they only want $100, you should pay the $100. And they say, sorry, out of principle, we don't want to pay that. There's nothing I can do about it. We can't drag them in front of the judge and have a judge tell them to settle the case for $100. That's not how it works. The judge does not have that power to settle a case. The same is true if the shoe is on the other foot. So let's say the insurance company wants to pay $100,000 to settle somebody's case. And let's say that they're overpaying by more than double what the case really should settle for. But the injured worker doesn't want to accept it. They cannot drag that injured worker in front of a judge and say, Judge, look, we're paying very fair money here. We're paying more than anybody should expect for this case. Make him or her accept it. The judge does not have that authority to do that. So it's important that you understand when we talk about settlements, first of all, that it's voluntary. So the way it typically works is the case will be valued up by your attorney. That attorney should be making recommendations to you about what range you can expect for settlement and what amount you should demand to start negotiations. And then honestly, it's kind of like buying a car at that point. There will be an offer made, and then you'll make a counter demand, and you'll go back and forth until the parties decide that's it, nobody will budge anymore, and can we reach an agreement at that point in time? Do we have an agreement on a number, or are we close and maybe we can bridge the gap and make a concession to get it over the line and let the case settle for everybody's best interest so everybody can close the file and move along. The question everybody wants to know is, how much is my case worth? And that's different with every individual case. That's why you need an attorney who has experience, who can look at your case, your individual facts in your case, and determine what your case is worth. I go out of my way to explain to my clients exactly what the case is worth and why. In other words, I don't just give my clients a number and say, your case is worth $10,000. I think we should make a demand of X amount and try and get that for you. Instead, I provide my clients with detailed information regarding exactly how insurance companies look at cases from a value standpoint. And the reality of that is the value that your case has from a settlement standpoint is a function of how much your case is going to cost the insurance company if you don't settle your case and keep it open. In other words, what will they have to spend paying you benefits and possibly paying attorney's fees to me or another attorney if they lose in litigation over anything that's outstanding if the case doesn't settle? That's what we call their exposure on the case. So when we talk about exactly how an insurance company calculates their exposure on a claim, what they literally do is they sit down with a pen and a pad of paper, and they're going to write medical and indemnity, and they're going to chart out exactly what they think they're going to have to pay on your claim if you don't settle it. So they're going to write down the cost of a potential surgery if you're being recommended for a surgery. If you're being recommended for surgery, you're going to need post-operative physical therapy. They're going to write that down and what they think that's going to cost them. And they're going to do that with every item they can think of that they may have to pay for if your case doesn't settle. They're going to do the same thing with the indemnity side of that piece of paper. And remember that indemnity is the term that we utilize in the industry when we talk about lost wages, the payments that you get from the workers' compensation insurance company. So again, if you're facing a surgery that's being recommended, they're going to write down, okay, we think he's going to be out of work for 4 months. What is that going to cost us? After that, you're probably going to be on light duty for a certain amount of time. How long do they think that's going to be? And they're going to write down how much that's going to cost them. And they're going to do that with everything that is a subcategory of indemnity. And they're going to total all of that up at the bottom. And that is the exposure in a case. That is how your case is valued. It's very black and white. Unfortunately, for the people that are injured, this is a very personal and real experience that they're going through. But for the insurance company, it's a dollars and cents question for them. what makes sense, what is reasonable for them to pay to settle your claim. There's only so much that they're willing to pay in any given case. Anything over that, they'd rather take their chances leaving the case open, seeing if you get the benefits. For instance, maybe you never end up having surgery. Maybe you have a new accident that intervenes and prevents them from being responsible. So beyond a certain point, it's no longer reasonable for them to settle your claim. So that's something to consider when you're evaluating your case from a settlement perspective. People often ask if you're allowed to continue to work while you're trying to settle a workers' compensation claim. You should continue to receive benefits and work if you're on light duty and the employer has work available for you during the process of negotiating settlement of your claim. However, as we've mentioned in prior videos, if you settle a workers' compensation claim, you typically have to give up your job and you have to sign what we call a general release and resignation. So during the settlement process, while you're negotiating, etc., you don't necessarily have an impact on your job, but if you settle your claim and you sign a general release and resignation, you're typically going to have to give up your job and stop working for the company. And in fact, based on the terms of that agreement, you're probably going to give up your right to continue to work for that company ever again in the future. The question I always get asked is, should I settle my case? That is a personal decision that you have to make. I view my role as your attorney as somebody that's here to educate you and guide you through this process. For most of you, you've never been through something like this before and you don't understand the intricacies of what the workers' compensation law does and does not provide for. So my goal is to make sure that you can make an informed decision based on as much information as possible. I'm not going to just tell you that your case is worth X amount and you should do that or you shouldn't do that. I'm going to explain to you what the insurance company could pay for your case if it stays open, based on that, what I think a reasonable settlement would be, and let you make the final decision about what is in your best interest. Ultimately, you're the one that has to live with the ramifications of the settlement, the fact that you're not going to work for that company ever again, the fact that you're going to have to pay for your future medical treatment on your own. And that's something that you have to decide for yourself. But I will do my part to make sure that you're educated about what value your case has so that you can make an informed decision. While it's true that most cases end in a settlement, your case does not have to settle today, tomorrow, next month, next year. If you are receiving benefits and you would prefer to keep your claim open and continue to receive those benefits, you can do so. However, you should know that there are risks involved when you don't settle your claim, just like there are risks involved that I just mentioned if you settle your claim. So we talked about if you settle your claim, you are now responsible for your future medical treatment and so forth. And that is a risk that you're taking because you could find out the next day after you settle your case that your treatment is going to cost more than you anticipated. But you can't reopen your case once you've settled your claim. So you bear that risk. Well, similarly, if you don't settle your case and you keep your claim open, there is risk that perhaps you have a new accident that prevents the workers' compensation insurance company from being responsible for your injuries anymore. To use an example, you're driving to the grocery store and you're in a car accident and you already had a back injury, but now you've made it much worse. Well, the insurance company is most likely going to deny you benefits, and now you're going to have to litigate whether or not you're entitled to future treatment. And realistically, that's going to come down to whether or not there are new findings on an MRI, for instance, or not. If there's new findings on an MRI, they're not going to be responsible, more likely than not. So that's one risk that you have if you don't settle the case. Another risk would be that you let the statute of limitations run on your claim. And I'm sure everybody's heard that term before, but basically what statute of limitations means is that's the amount of time that you have to file a lawsuit before you can no longer file a lawsuit. For most workers' compensation accidents in the state of Florida, the statute of limitations is 2 years from the date that you're injured or 1 year from the last time you receive a benefit, whichever date is later. So that's the amount of time that you have to file a lawsuit. Well, if you don't settle your claim and you allow that time period to lapse, you're not going to be able to go back and file either a claim for benefits or pursue a fair settlement. They may pay you some nuisance amount of money just to get rid of you if you let your statute of limitations run. But honestly, I doubt they would even do that once you've clearly let the statute of limitations on your claim run. Lastly, and I don't mean to be morbid, But another risk you have is, heaven forbid, you pass away as a result of something unrelated to your accident. So to use the example I mentioned before, if you're driving to the grocery store and somebody hits you and unfortunately you pass away, as long as the reason that you passed away was not your work-related injury, your workers' comp claim is going to die with you. And so if you are somebody that has a significant injury and you want to protect the future inheritance of your loved ones, it may be better for you to consider settling your claim. That way you can get the money, you can have the money in your account, you can do whatever you want with it. You can use it for medical treatment as necessary, you can put some of it aside for your loved ones if that's what you choose. But those are all risks that you would potentially be facing by not settling a claim. This is one of the reasons that you need a workers' compensation attorney helping you with your claim. You don't deal with these types of things on a regular basis. You don't understand exactly what a claim is worth and why. And with the help of a good attorney, hopefully you'll be guided through that process. You'll have a better understanding, you'll have more comfort, and it'll be an easier decision for you to make, whichever decision it is that you choose, whether you should settle or not settle your claim. If you or somebody you know has been injured on the job and you would like a free consultation, please do not hesitate to contact us. We can be reached at 407-531-8477 or online at bdtlawfirm.com. Thank you.